So we're back and we're in some of our pre-released cars. We of course acquired these cars through the gold pack purchase of the game, but it's fantastic once again to be back here on Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown, doing a little bit of road discovery, spending a little bit of time off camera, just discovering some more of the map. Of course, it's something that everybody's going to want to experience over time, is getting that 100% road completion, all of the side tasks that we do have. But we have got one very important thing we want to do today. We want to spend some money. Had to do a couple of re-records here. Some of the footage has been corrupt, but we are of course looking for our grand tourer, and it would be remiss not to first of all head on over to the German Performance Centre. We will be in that 911 at some point, but more importantly we want to have a look first of all at the Porsche Taycan Turbo. Now, yes, this is of course a re-record. I already know what car I'm in, I've already done some races, but I want to get that footage of the decision, why I have chose what I have chose. So first of all, tailoring the Taycan how I would have it, the blue paint and the diamond cut wheels. I've got a big problem with this car in particular, and here it is. There's no noise. We know that. It's an EV. I am an EV fan. Teslas, you know, I think are the pinnacle of EVs. Currently looking for a Model Y in real life. But playing a racing game, we want the noise of a V10, a V8, perhaps a W12. For me, playing a racing game and having the electric noise or lack of noise through an electric vehicle isn't fun. Now yes, these are frighteningly quick cars. I do have quite an affinity to EVs. I do think, you know, there's some fantastic things that can be achieved. But playing a racing game, 140, 150 miles per hour with no noise, it doesn't excite me. For that reason, we're going to head on over to a very specific dealership, the British Cars Performance dealership, and there's two cars that are on my radar coming into this. First of all, the Bentley Continental GT. Now, for many years playing Forza, I loved the previous iteration of the GT Continental, and the noise. It's perhaps a bit dulled in this game, but the GT Continental has been a favourite car of mine playing racing games for quite a long time, and I think I have to try it out in this one before I do commit. The purple paint job in particular I do think stands out fantastically well. I would perhaps like British Racing Green, but you know, it's neither here nor there. That purple with the gold accents looks simply fantastic. Now, handling model, we of course know four-wheel drive here. It does stick to the road fairly well. A couple of tweaks may be needed, a couple of upgrades also may be needed for here. For the GT Continental, going way through a little test drive here, perhaps not showcasing any good driving skills so far. Sound very nice through the tunnel. I do love the GT Continental. Notoriously been one of my favourite cars in racing games for the Grand Tourer kind of aspect of things. I do think it is a fantastic car. In Forza in particular, of course, Motorsport 7, being able to tailor, you know, perhaps anti-roll bar settings and things like that, you can really make this a very, very, very capable race car. So far, really like it within Test Drive Unlimited. The second one I do have on my list here is the DB11. That green, simply a fantastic car, and listen to this. Sounds absolutely insane. But I need to know how this one handles. Of course, rear wheel drive over the four wheel drive of the Continental GT, and that noise, that soundtrack is absolutely stunning. So far not overly leery out the back end either, which is another massive tick on the box. We know there's a specific handling model for Test Drive Unlimited, but so far that DB11 just sounds insane. Handles pretty damn good as well. A very tough choice ahead here over the DB11 and the GT Continental. Be interesting to see how it handles some tighter corners, perhaps under a bit more pressure. Is it going to be as stable on the road as it has been so far? We're not doing, you know, frightening speeds just yet. It does feel very nice. That soundtrack out the back end of that DB11 is just magnificent. An incredibly difficult choice at hand here, spending $1 million ingrained dollars to which car we're going to get. It's a very tough decision, but a decision that we have made, and I have chose the GT Continental. This is purely due to affinity, what the progress I've had with this car previously through previous games, of course Forza Motorsport 7 in particular, really making this an unbelievably capable car in those games. I feel like we have got the same potential in this game with some upgrades. It does need some upgrades, I can tell already, just with some slight handling tweaks. Perhaps when we do unlock those semi-slick tyres, this thing will potentially be unstoppable, minus the issue with the electric Porsche. Very happy with the choice. I do love the GT Continental, I do love the noise that comes out of the back of them, also perhaps not as good as the DB11, but not far off the back of it. I do want to progress with this car, I do want to use it as much as I physically can. Yeah, all in all, happy with the choice. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what have you chose for your Grand Tourers? Have you went with the meta? Making an absolute meal of that there. Have you went with the meta? Have you chose the Porsche Taycan? Perhaps you went with DB11, perhaps you went GT Continental, perhaps you went something else. Let me know what you guys have all chose for your Grand Tourer. It was an incredibly difficult choice between the DB11 and the GT Continental, but of course you can see I have chose the Bentley. Perhaps in time I might put some cash together, pick up the DB11 also, but I chose this one for that specific reason. I have an affinity with it, with previous racing games, so hopefully we can be as progressive with the GT Continental in Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown. So yeah, enough rambling on. Perhaps it's time to do a bit of exploration, perhaps do some road discoveries with the GT Continental. One issue I do have, when you're out on those test drives, you don't get road discovery. So you have to then go and do those roads again. I don't like it, I don't understand it. I can sort of understand it with races, but when you're on a test drive in a car like we just had with the Porsche, the DB11 and the GT Continental, you get no road discovery. So it's a bit of an issue. And then this clip here, a fantastic jump to collect some coins here off the back of this trailer, and bang! You can't achieve the jump at speed, you have to slow down to do it. Another issue, test drive and sort it out. But let's get on with some racing. Let's test out the GT Continental for the first race of today. It's just a time attack on quite a go-kart-esque track, a very tight track here with a lot of obstacles on either side of the track. But let's get this one off and running. Four-wheel drive launch, the GT Continental far more capable than many other in the class off of the line. Couple of tight right-handers coming up here as we hit the inside curb and we get pushed across the track. Managed to miss it that time out, but not started this one off fantastically well. Tight little right left-hander coming up ahead here. Stay right at this point. Don't get caught with that right-hander like I did previously before. But snaking through this section as we get a little bit of lag there, which is unfortunate. Tight little section into this track, but the GT Continental, although this thing is as big as a barge, handling it fantastically well so far. Slightly damp track, which is good to see the GT Continentals being fairly capable as we go a little bit deep into that corner, clip the outside wall, but back onto the power as we do come down into the next slalom section. Left-hander, right-hander, slowing down enough hopefully, but we catch the inside there, we run wide, back end stepping out ever so slightly as we clip that outside wall, get some more debris onto the track as such, but we manage to power slide it through those right-handers and we get back on to the straight and see what kind of power GT Continental has underneath it. Stepping out a little bit there on that last right-hander, a nice left-hander up ahead here. I do quite like this corner right here. We just go a little bit too deep into that one, catching the outside wall, not fantastic, but a minute 18 for the first lap. We know what to expect with this second lap ahead, the mistakes we don't really want to repeat. Not catching that inside curve this time out a little bit cleaner through the first little section there. As we come back into this little slalom section here, we stay right and we put the power down a little bit cleaner this time out. Sliding across the track here, we need to slow down in time for this very tight section, which a GT Continental you wouldn't typically put into this kind of part of a track, but it's managed it significantly better this lap out. Power down here, left-hander, we know we can't go deep into this one. We do a little bit better this time out, still not overly fantastic though. Power down here, back into the little tight section down here. Once again, we don't want to run wide, we just make a meal of this one once again. Not the most fantastic of races, really get stuck in that outside wall, which is very frustrating, but we'll negotiate the rest of this. Hopefully we just get a bit of a clean run to the end of this lap and we can complete it out for the first race ticked off for the GT Continental. Now of course we've got a generous time to beat on this this track here, so it's not going to pose much of a difficulty. negotiating that left-hander much better, a minute to spare in this race. So yeah, we negotiated it much better on the second outing. But we can now do some upgrades to the GT Continental, not much cosmetically. Yet again, static wheel choice, we don't have much of an option here for upgrading the aesthetics of this car. Very, very annoying, but we can do some performance upgrades. Exhaust, turbocharger, we can change that intake, of course, get a little bit more noise out of that W12. Brake upgrade, no suspension upgrade as of yet. We can do gearbox upgrades, we'll make that slightly swifter for the gear change, I think. No tyre upgrades yet. We can do some stability upgrades, a roll cage as such, some aero upgrades. I don't think we're going to advance. Well, we have advanced with this time out actually, and an ECU upgrade. So we put everything onto there up to 652. Ignition and internal upgrades also. We've went full hog with the GT Continental. Let's get back out and hear what the GT Continental sounds like now. Not much change. That's rather disappointing. I would like this one to be a little bit louder on that exhaust note in particular. It's perhaps slightly louder, but not fantastic. But we've got all those power upgrades done now. Let's get on with our very first ranked race on recording here. I've done a couple so far, so let's get one on recording here. Let's see how we fare against a Porsche Taycan. Now this is the first ranked race I've done for recording. I've done a couple so far, won a couple there. I just wanted to get one on a recording here, showcasing that it does appear that everybody in the Grand Tourer class is selling their soul and using an electric vehicle. They are using the Porsche Taycan here. They are frighteningly quick cars, but we want that exhaust noise. We managed to pip it off the line, cut it off just to start off the track, but we can see that the Taycan just instantly gathers speed and catches back up onto the back end of us. Go a little bit deep into their braking, not fantastic on that first right-hander. This one here is the key right-hander, and we catch that inside, and the Porsche just completely pushes us off the track as we get bogged down on that wall, and the Taycan taking off from us. Very dirty move there from Luca Parsley, the ranked racer that we are going up against here. Now we come down into this very tight right-hander, which I did not realise till after the race. We can cut before the right-hander, we can cut out a section of that track. I only noticed this after we cut through that section, so we must remember that going forward. We can see the Porsche getting away from us. At this point we managed to miss that tree on the left-hand sider. The Porsche going in deep on this left-hander, but we bog ourselves down by catching that tree. We must start missing these obstacles that are really killing our pace. We have managed to catch back up onto the back of that Taycan S, so it's not pulling away from us as of yet. As we take out a tree, we just managed to get through the tree that the Taycan takes out in actual fact there. So we are still in with a chance. The Taycan is not taking away from us, but we catch the tree on the outside there. Not doing fantastically well. The Porsche getting the power down fantastically well into that section. Up into the left-hander, the Porsche's on the horn. Up the hill, the Porsche will likely pull away from us. That EV power dragging the Taycan up the hill, but the Bentley Continental far more competitive than it should be perhaps against that Taycan. As we follow it down here into the wall, that was our chance to win this domination race. We follow the Porsche and hit the wall. That is a massive mistake that we really must clean up, but we're still on the back end of that Porsche. Tight right-hander here. Hopefully the Porsche goes wide and we can capitalise. It does indeed. We get off that corner far better. The Porsche sliding into this corner. We'll try to stick it up the inside, box the Porsche out of this corner, return that favour that the Porsche gave to us onto that right-hander earlier in the race. But it's a domination race. It's going to be incredibly tight as we do come down to the line and we make a meal of that left-hander in the roundabout. It's going to be incredibly tight here. 1270 points for Luca, 1200 points for myself, 2x points on that tariff. We are really neck and neck here. There's 50 points in this domination. Are we going to get enough to win it? 1500 points, not confident here, and I think we're going to just be pipped. We are indeed 40 points, we lose that ranked race. So we're not all about talking about the races we win, we want to obviously address the races we lose. Moving on to our next ranked race, and we're up against an Alpine A110. A D-Class, a daily driver up against the G-Class, a Grand Tourer here. I think before this race even starts, the writing is on the wall. Of course, we have had to downgrade the GT Continental for this race to 650. The Alpine is up to 650. But I don't think there's going to be much of a challenge in this one. The GT Continental absolutely blitzing the Alpine off the line. Right hand into a tight left hand section here, and we can see on that minimap the Alpine is nowhere near us at this point. So yeah, let's push forward with this one. Another domination ranked race here. I don't think we're going to have much of a challenge at all from the Alpine as we do come into this nice section of right and lefts. The Bentley Continental GT really handling them fantastically well, living up to the moniker of being a true grand tourer there. Let's get into this right-hander. Perhaps a little bit slower, we probably could take a little bit more speed into this one. A slight kick out from the back end as we exit that corner. Again, nice and slowly into that one. Slow in, fast out, as they do say. So negotiating those little slaloms or those left and rights fantastically well. Power, we're sliding through that right-hander. We don't really break too much on this entrance onto the left-hander. We take some dirt on the inside, we take some dirt on the outside, take out a lamppost, but we do carry on. We really need to start cleaning up our driving ever so slightly here. We can take some of those inside edges, it's not all too bad. They have proven to be okay, especially with the GT Continental here. Sliding down that left-hander, right-hander, into another left-hander, into another right-hander. This is actually a fantastic time trial for you guys all to jump on. Only 30% through, so it's actually quite a long one also, which is good. We don't want those short races, we want those long races, and we can see the GT Continental is absolutely blitzing away from the Alpine. Breaking down into that left-hander, we run a little bit wide, but we managed to keep it on track. Through the right-hander, another right-hander up ahead. We really shouldn't have too much bother here. We should be pretty much on the power, but the back end stepping out, we go really wide there. That's not fantastic, but we still manage to stay on track. We still stay ahead of the Alpine. Left-hander into right-hander, a little backfire through the exhaust there, which is absolutely fantastic. I love the exhaust noises that this game is providing us. Tight right-hander up ahead here. We could probably take that one a hell of a lot tighter, cutting off perhaps just into the railings on the inside right. But we get another 2x there for domination. We are blitzing ahead of the Alpine, 1300 points over the 990 points there for the Alpine, not posing much of a challenge whatsoever as we really get the power down here. 160, fourth gear into fifth gear, and yeah, we're really blitzing through here. It doesn't really seem very much of a fair race whatsoever. Now, the game's indicating heavy braking zones. I don't really think there were. We can see we did slide out, but we really managed to hold on to this one. A tight right-hander up ahead, and unfortunately, we outbrake ourselves on this one. We really outbrake ourselves. We'll just return to the road at this point. 30% of the time trial left. The Alpine is absolutely nowhere behind us, but we really made a mess of that right-hand corner just there, outbraking ourselves, crashing into the wall. But we resume. We're back on the road. Power's down. As we start to blast up the hills, right-handers, left-handers, we make an absolute meal of the braking just there, unfortunately, but we're still very much ahead of the Alpine. The race is essentially done and dusted at this point. We can just enjoy a leisurely stroll to the finish line here in the GT Continental. 20% of the race is now remaining. What have we got left? 3 checkpoints left, catching that inside right, but it's okay because we can cut the corner here into that right-hander, take another 2x of domination points, up to 2200, the Alpine on 1700. Not much challenge here whatsoever from the Alpine. A couple of corners left to negotiate, just 10% left of this domination race, and it really has been dominant from the GT Continental. There hasn't been much of a challenge whatsoever. As we take out walls, we take out street furniture, we have well and truly blitzed this track. The GT Continental, more than capable of being very competitive in the G class. As we wait for the Alpine just to finish crossing the line, we of course do finish off first. 3 minutes and 54, we rank up from rank 3 bronze up to rank 2 bronze, which is fantastic. Easy progression at this one. We can see there's a lot of progression ahead. So yeah, it's been great to be out in the GT Continental. $1 million invested, well invested in my opinion. Very happy with the choice, but guys, do let me know what you thought of today's video in the comment section down below, and more importantly, let me know what car you did purchase for the G class.